and a property pops up in your neighborhood that you live in right now, and it's cheap, and you're like, well, you know what? I know my neighborhood pretty well, and I feel pretty confident that if I can get this and rehab it for this much money, that I can turn around and sell it retail or sell it owner finance or even hold it as a rental, right? So the networking part of wholesaling is everything. So we always have to put our face out there and get to know everybody. Now, as far as the legalities of it, wholesaling's been going on for a long time, right? The main two ways that you're going to wholesale a property are going to be assigning a contract, okay, or just flipping your contract, or doing a double close, okay? The difference between the two really mainly depends on how you're acquiring, or the type of property that you're acquiring, okay? If it's just somebody that lives in the house and maybe they own it free and clear and they say, you know what, I need to move to California and I need to sell this house now. I can't wait for putting it on the market, you know, and I know my neighbor had a house listed and he had it listed for 6 months and never even got a showing, and this happens every day, okay? You don't realize it until you get into it and start talking to people, start putting your name out there, start advertising, start marketing. And there's going to be people out there that have lived in their house for 30 years, have owned it free and clear for 15, and they need an instant solution, just like that. So as a wholesaler, that's what we are. We're a solution provider, right? We're going to provide them with a solution because we're going to come in there and make them a cash offer and close in 30 days or less, a lot of times less. And when we tell them we're going to make a cash offer, it may not be our cash, right? It may be my investor's cash or somebody else that's going to come in and buy it. But we are making them that cash offer, and we are going to try to close quickly. The people that are in those situations, they have a lot of equity or free and clear, and you're going to go in and you're going to analyze that property, right? And you're going to say, okay, well, gosh, how much do I need to offer this person so that I can wholesale this property, right? So that's one of the big parts of wholesaling is how do you analyze, right? When you think about it, you have to understand, one, what kind of repairs is this property going to need so that I can put it into retail condition. Okay, we always do repair estimates for retail. Okay, now that doesn't mean that somebody that's going to buy my property isn't going to just hold it as a rental, right? And you may not want to repair the foundation now if you're going to hold it as a rental, or you may not want to put in, you know, real nice carpet or the best ceramic tile if it's going to be a rental, especially if you're going to turn it over and you're going to have make-readies and things are going to get messed up, right? But for us, we're always going to analyze and say, okay, if I'm going to sell this to somebody, and really put yourself in your buyer's shoes. If I'm going to buy this house and rehab it, and I'm going to turn around and sell it retail, how much work do I need to put into this so that somebody that can get a loan in today's market, a retail buyer, is going to come in and be able to and accept your offer, right? So we're always going to analyze. Now, if you've never analyzed a house for repairs before, that can be a difficult thing because you may not know where to start. But this room is a great place to start. There's contractors in this room. There's inspectors. There's people that, we don't have to have a contractor or an inspector go out and inspect our properties anymore because we've looked at hundreds and we've analyzed hundreds, and we have our own little repair sheet that says, okay, if it's in this price range, we're going to spend this much on carpet, we're going to spend this much on tile, this much on paint. If we have to rehab a kitchen or just paint cabinets, put new countertops on it, etc., on down the line, we can come up with an estimate that our general contractor will basically abide by, typically within about plus or minus 10%. Okay, so we can go into a house and spend 5 to 10 minutes, right? Go around, look at that, okay, crack there. Go around, some foundation, okay, we need paint, how many square feet is it, you figure it all out. Okay, so starting point. Now we know how much repairs it's going to need. Okay, 2, the part of the analysis is how much is the house worth. Okay, and everybody here has probably heard ARV, right? After repaired value. So in other words, if this house is already been rehabbed, spick and span, everything's new, tidied, updated, what is that? That's the value, the after repaired value. And how we calculate the after repaired value is by using the MLS, because that's how we can prove to our buyers that this is how much we sell houses, that this is how much houses will sell for in this neighborhood, right? And we use an average. We look at, typically we'll look at houses within a half-a-mile radius of our subject property, which you can do on MLS, or you can also do on Investway. If you don't have access to the MLS, it's MLS data. It's just not directly on the MLS. So we'll typically look at a half-mile radius from the property. We'll look at properties that have sold no more than 6 months ago. Okay? And now, of course, we're talking about comparables, right? Comparables, so we want it to be close in square footage. Typically, we're going to go plus or minus 20% is the max that we'll go to determine a comparable house. We're always going to want to try to find the same bedrooms and bathrooms. Sometimes you're going to have 1.5 baths. Sometimes you're going to have 2 bath, right? 1 car garage, 2 car garage. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look and we want to be able to find a minimum of 3 comparable properties that have sold on the MLS, and we look at the average dollar per square foot, because we could have a house that's 1,100 square foot that sold for $70,000, and then we can have a house that's 1,400 square foot that also sold for $70,000. So it depends. Now, if the house that you're selling is only 900 square foot, then it could not sell for $70,000. But what we do is we just look at the average dollar per square foot. Okay, so we've got 3 properties on the MLS. It's always going to give you the dollar per square foot that was sold at. Okay, and so we're just going to take those and we're going to average it. Multiply that dollar per square foot, that average dollar per square foot, times the square footage of your subject property. That's where we come up with our after repair value. Okay, so what's an average? It's not the top, it's not the bottom, right? Question?
Do you have the biggest house on the block discounted off of that?
If you have the biggest house on the block, it's never the best thing, right? If it's significantly larger than the rest of the block, then yeah, we probably would discount it.
Out of the 20% range?
Well, no. We would, it's case by case, of course. But we would look at it and say we've got a house, and we've had this. We had a 3,500 square foot house in an area with 1,600 square foot houses, right? Because somebody added a second floor onto their house and basically doubled their living space. And, yes, you're going to get, you're sold, to be able to sell that price for that house, you're probably going to be able to sell it for more than all the rest of the houses in the neighborhood, but maybe not that much more, right? Because the neighborhood doesn't support it, right? So, yeah, it's always a case by case, but if you see something like that, you're going to have to say, oh, wow, this one's got 3,500 square foot, and the average sold per square foot in the area is $65 a square foot, and multiply those two together, and be like, wow, this thing's worth $210,000, where everything else in the neighborhood's selling for $100 or less, and somebody's not going to come in and pay that much, especially if it's retail, because they're going to have to get a bank loan. The bank's going to send out an appraiser, and the appraiser is going to say, well, you know what, I don't have any comps for a 3,500 square foot house in this neighborhood, right? So they're going to use a different valuation. Sometimes appraisers will use tax value as their starting basis, right? Yes?
In your scenario there, the person added on a whole second story.
Mm-hmm.
How do you value add-ons? Sometimes they're good ones and sometimes they're not.
Sure.
But is it just thrown in as square footage and call it a day?
That's what they're going to try to tell you, right? Is wow, look, it's, you know, it's this much more square foot than any other house in the area, but as investors,